Hey everyone, good Tuesday evening. Welcome again to another episode of Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. We do it every week, and sometimes in between, as was the case this past week with some special events. We've got a great show coming up for you tonight with an exciting guest that I can't wait to introduce you to and learn more a little bit about his bowling story. That'll happen in just a moment here. But I want to start out by talking about the PWBA Twin Cities Open. Wow, what a tournament. What a great experience. Thank you so much to the PWBA, to Jason Thomas, to Brent Prentice, to all the competitors, and to the staff at Cedar Vale Lanes for making my experience covering that event really magical. We'll call it that. Shannon O'Keefe, as you know, if you saw the telecast live on CBS Sports Network, really steamrolled her first three opponents and then won a tight one over Missy Parkin in the championship match, 213 to 192, to claim her 15th overall PWBA title, her second PWBA Twin Cities Open, and before a great crowd there in Eagan, Minnesota. And as you know, if you've been paying attention to the channel, you know there is plenty of content out there, including this little number. Kelly Kulik coming through with the tournament's only 300 game. That's the 12th shot right there to thrill that crowd over at Cedar Vale Lanes. Exciting for her. Unfortunately, she did not make the cut after that round, but certainly a thrill for those who got to see it live, and plenty more content, not only bowling video, but also some medium form interviews, including Maria Jose Rodriguez, Missy Parkin, and others that are on the channel from the PWBA Twin Cities Open. Be sure and check those out. We also are going to have another interview that I gathered while I was there with Sydney Brummett. Now, if you're familiar with Sydney, you know that she provided color commentary during some of the recent collegiate telecasts on CBS Sports Network, as well as for the USBC Queens. So if you've been following the PWBA, you've heard her voice. I did have a chance to talk to her. Here's what she says is the toughest part about being good at providing that voice that comes out of your TV speakers.
The hardest part was learning to take what I think in my head and actually say it, because I'm very introverted, actually. Okay. And so sometimes I keep my thoughts to myself and I don't say them out loud. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably the hardest part, is just saying what I'm thinking.
A great conversation that I am looking forward to publishing. Be sure and check the channel later this week. We will have that full interview for you in recorded form on the channel. A couple other things I wanted to mention. Thanks to those of you who contributed to the Bowl for Kids' Sake effort I had out on the Facebook page. Just a great event with lots of fundraising for one-to-one youth mentoring in northwestern Wisconsin. And a big thank you for supporting the channel. On the strength of that PWBA coverage, we are now at 650 subscribers on the YouTube channel, north of 70,000 views. Those are great numbers, if I do say so myself, and I call them that because I'm not used to seeing them on this channel. So really appreciate everyone who supports what we're doing here, telling bowling stories, covering great live events, and it just warms my heart that people have really taken a liking to the content that we've been putting out here on Bowling with the Fef. Bowling with the Pfeff couldn't be what it is today without the support of Chip Magnet Salsa. Now, Chip Magnet Salsa, as you may know, is a family business right near me in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, distributing quality salsas, relishes, and more to stores in 38 states and Canada. Those of you in the Milwaukee area have lots of places to find Chip Magnet. You can find it at Woodman's, Sendik's, Festival Foods, Pick and Save, Metro Market, Outpost, Metcalf's, and Wauwatosa, several Piggly Wigglies. I mean, you'd have to work hard not to find it in that area. Or if you don't have it in a store near you, just let your fingers do the walking. Go to chipmagnetsalsa.com. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. Well, we have a very exciting guest tonight on Bowling with the Pfeff. I've been looking forward to talking to this gentleman. One of our previous guests, Mark Wukeman, suggested that we bring him on. Fortunately, he was amenable to that. So tonight, for your viewing and listening pleasure, we have Bruce Torbeck from Germantown, Wisconsin, a Milwaukee Hall of Famer. There he is, joining us live tonight on the show. Bruce, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Love the Brewers shirt because, of course, they're the best team in the major leagues, but also coming off a doubleheader sweep against the hated Cubs.
The hated Cubs.
So we are definitely on the same page there. Let me kind of go through and rapid fire some of the comments that I've received, many of them in the last, 19 hours or so.
Wow.
About our show. So we heard from Mark Ignatowski, says Torbeck is a legend. Ed Smaglick via our Facebook page. I didn't know I enjoyed cursing until spending quality time with him at those junior all-star trios triples events. Time well spent. Wukeman wants to know if I have a censor button. Bob Greenfield says I should get my bleeper button ready. And
I love it.
And that you use the F word as a noun, adjective, verb, and dangling participle.
That's great.
So I got to know why.
Well, I kind of grew up in a rough neighborhood, and it's kind of a word that you use all the time. I mean, you add a couple of extra ones with it, and then you got a little power going your way or whatever. I don't know. It's just something that flies out sometimes.
Yeah.
Probably more than sometimes.
Derek Michaud joining us. Thanks for being here, Derek. I mean, it's a bowling center. We end up cursing in a bowling center, and I think probably more of us do than maybe want to make it public, but it's a big part of your personality. But what I want to know really is, do people misunderstand, what you're all about when you're in league, when you're in a tournament? Maybe the language gets a little colorful or a little more colorful than they're used to. But is there more? Is there more to you than just curse words?
Well, there is. I mean, I don't curse all the time. I mean, I'm a family man, and I have 9 grandkids, and it's you can't curse around them. They don't drink or they don't smoke. They don't do anything. But I still, a few cocktails and the words come out.
Fair enough.
But on the lanes, you get a little intense. Now, I never really said that really. I don't think I said it hard out loud or whatever on the lanes or whatever, but afterwards I might tell people where to go.
Well, that's great. I want to dive into your bowling story because there is a lot to it, and I don't want to leave at least anything out that that I can think of. So let's get started with kind of how you began, how your story starts, how you got into bowling, and what the circumstances were.
Well, I started bowling when I was 9 years old. My mom ran a snack bar at Silverbird Lane, Silver Bowl back then or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so to keep me out of trouble, which would be like stealing cigarettes and smoking, they didn't do it at 9, but later on in life I did that. But, she put me out on the lane. So I would just go out and bowl. And I never was really any good at it. I averaged about 175 or whatever, and I loved playing baseball. And then as I grew up through the ranks a little bit and started getting in, started hooking the ball a little bit and taking lessons from Frank Minkovic, if you want to believe that.
Okay.
He was about as straight as they get, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But and then just get into good leagues like the Metro, and then getting to meet the bowling fam. I call it my bowling family. I mean, getting to meet these people is really an honor and a pleasure. I mean, I used to bowl. As we go on, I could probably tell you more stories or whatever, but they get pretty interesting with Ron Wheeler and stuff like that.
Okay.
But you know, you shoot an honor score and then you win another one.
Yeah.
You know, and you shoot an honor score and then you win another one. Then, you know, I always said if I shot 300, 800, I would be done, you know, but that's not necessarily the case. Then it was a national title, and it was this and a regional and a non-pro.
Yeah.
And it just kept on going, and it's been a great life, and I still do it. I still love it.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that, because then this story lasts longer than 5 minutes.
yeah. Well, I still swear too, but that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah. I remember Silverbird Lanes over there on Silver Spring and Fond du Lac.
That's correct.
I remember the Brunswick 2000 masking units, and going over there just to kind of get a different feel than some of the places that I grew up in, Brown Deer Lanes, Hadler Lanes up in that area. There were, I mean, a lot of great bowlers that came out of Milwaukee and all that. And you started in an era that was much different than today. What was the scene like in Milwaukee, in those bowling centers when you started?
Well, you know, it's totally different. I mean, it was fun. I mean, you got done bowling, you went in and you had a good time. The music was playing, you were dancing and stuff like that, and you'd have a great time. You know, and then you know, 2 o'clock comes running around and you got to get up at 5 to go to work at 6 or whatever. But I did that 5 nights a week, so I kind of got used to that.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, even at Bolero was the same thing. You get them bowling and the place would rock. You know, you go in there and the disco would be kicking and the women would be jumping around and stuff like that. It was just one of them things. It was just a great time. Yeah.
You mentioned one of your coaches, and I wanted to get to a little thing that Bob Greenfield mentioned. You know, he mentioned that you're a good guy with a big heart and one hell of a bowler in your day. He says that you were a power player before everyone was. So how did you kind of grow in that? How did you learn that power game and grow it as you got better and better?
I think that came from watching the Pro Bowlers Tour every Saturday or whatever on TV, and just watching Mark Roth. I mean, Mark Roth, Marshall Holman, you know, those guys were kind of like my idols or whatever. And I always thought they were going to get into a fight all the time, you know, because you want to talk about being intense on the lanes. When I used to go down to Celebrity Lanes and watch the Miller High Life Open, I mean, you know, these guys smoke cigarettes, and when they got done with a block, they looked like they were exhausted, but the only thing they wanted to do was put a cigarette in their mouth. And I just thought that was kind of crazy. but they were great people. They give you autographs and they would talk to you, and, you know, they would give it, which I really liked. And I always thought that was fair.
Yeah. Fortunate enough to have Marshall on the show in an earlier episode. And we really concentrated on the fact that although he had this brash persona, you know, on the lanes, afterwards, he made a lot of friends out there, and, you know, has lifelong friends to show for it. Do you feel like you kind of modeled your personality after someone like Holman?
Well, you got to be intense on the lanes, and you got to try to, you know, maybe you don't go as kind of karate-ish as he does or whatever, but, you know, but, you know, if you're not intense, you're not going to do anything. So that extra part gives you that desire to win. And I'm all about winning. I mean, why play if you're not going to win?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So you just try.
Yeah. When you were starting things up, were you in a junior program, or did you go straight into the adult ranks?
I bowled in a junior high school program or whatever, and it really wasn't a program. It was just a get together or something like that. But then I went right into the men's program or whatever at Silverbird. It was at Silverbird.
Okay.
So I jumped right into men's leagues.
And how was that? I mean, that transition from being fairly new to, you know, really being up against these guys. I know league is kind of a casual environment, but you said it. You want to win. You're competing, right?
Well, and I always like to do this, you know, I always like to bet people on the side or whatever. And to this day, I still get a little cocky when it comes to that stuff. And sometimes I shouldn't open my mouth or whatever, but that's part of the game. You got to have that that cockiness or that want to win. And if money takes it, then money takes it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember a time, and I got it right here, this impact from A.O. Smith.
Oh, wow.
And I was working, and they took me off the line. They literally took me off the line and made me go to the bowling alley and bowl.
Oh, wow.
And then they wrote a whole page article.
Oh my gosh.
But I got paid a whole day for that shit. That's cool as hell. I mean, getting paid. It's like $140 at that time. That's okay. I'll take it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's great.
So you're getting better and better, and you know, like you said, you're kind of fueled by that, you know, almost action style bowling. Was there a point where you said, you know what, I'm going to start doing tournaments? Was that early on, or did that take a while?
How did that come about? I think it was one of those word of mouth things where, in the first tournaments I ever bowled in were non-pros.
Okay.
Which were really great because I really met a lot of people in non-pros. But I think it was like when we bowled in the Metro, that's where all the really good players kind of got together and they bowled in it's called the Metro League or whatever. You know, we won that league a couple of times. But I met so many people there. I mean, from Jimmy Certain to, you know, Wheeler to Geppel to Bartz, Poznanskis. I mean, it's just, you know, and I love old guys. That's why I'm mentioning their name. You know, all the young guys are still alive. They're still my friends. I can still go golfing with them.
Oh, sure. What year are we talking when you got into that Metro League?
I'll say 80, 81.
Okay.
80, 81.
All right.
You know, it was Metro, and then it was Bolero in the $2,000 Classic on Wednesday. And then actually I bowled in another good league at Echo Bowl where they used to, on Thursday nights, where they used to have gold pins were really hard to knock down with Brinkman and Greenfield and stuff like that. But they were hard to knock down. So that was a challenge. Don Hildebrand would put a kind of a semi-easy shot out there. Mm-hmm. But it was hard to get 10 in the pit.
If you can believe it, I was in that league for 1 year in the late 90s. So I remember those gold pins.
Yeah.
That was a good time. So, you know, you're in these leagues. I mean, these are guys that are, you know, like you said, the names, Jimmy Certain and Poznanski and Greeny. These are the best of the best. Are you beating them?
On occasions, I beat everybody. And you're probably your screen's gonna light up now. But that's how it was. I mean, when we won state match doubles, we went right through that field, and then the following year we went right through the field again, and we ended up taking second. We ended up losing or whatever. That's a different story or whatever. But those are really tough days back in the day. Those are some good players out there. You had Natoli. Oh my God! I mean, I was just reading some articles here that I have in my book. Some of the doubles teams were really outstanding.
Yeah. I asked Todd Filter about you. He said that you were legendary in the 80s, that you won everything and was feared. You know, you said you ended up beating everybody eventually, but did you know it back then? Or were there surprises along the way when you'd beat someone of that stature?
Well, yeah, like I say, you always play to win. I mean, I always did or whatever. But anytime you suit them up, you know, you just don't know if you want to win. But, you know, you got to have that pistol in your hand. You got to be able to, you know, and then if you got the nut, then you're good to go. You know, then you can start rubbing it in and greasing it in and putting some salt on it.
You mentioned Natoli. He said that at one time you were an amazing player, at one point unstoppable, unbeatable, and that he's proud to call you a friend, and that you're one of the all-time best in the state. So tell me about going from that, I gotta winning is the most important thing, to making friends with these guys like Joe and the others.
Well, again, everybody gives me that persona of having that kind of that talk I talk or whatever, but I'm really a good-hearted guy deep down inside or whatever, and so are these people, you know. So once you get to meet them and you have a good time and they understand who you are, then it turns into a whole different ballgame.
Sure.
But it's really kind of cool. Natoli's he's really a good friend or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been on the show too. Excellent story that he has as well. Joe went on the tour. Did you follow in his footsteps or precede him in that regard?
I bowled 3 regionals, and the best I ever did was 6th. You know,
Okay.
but again, when I bowled those, you know, you got to meet people like Weber and stuff like that, Traglia and stuff. I mean, you met, you know, and Yanneris was all, you know, he bowled. And it was just interesting to meet these new people. You go to Chicago, you meet new people. Now everybody knows who I am in Chicago, and I don't know why that is. Maybe because me and Wookaman went there, and I won like 4 tournaments in a row, and then they stopped having this tournament. But you know, they couldn't handle a Gem Tech or something like that. I don't know. I couldn't take it. But that's a tournament that me and Wookaman used to bowl in I think it was once a month or whatever.
Okay.
It's called the Budweiser Scratch Classic.
Ah, okay. And basically touring around Chicagoland?
All right, you want to hear a story about Chicago?
Of course I do. Bring it up.
All right. Used to go to Boot Hills. Have you ever heard of Boot Hills?
I have, yes.
So I don't know Chicago very good, but a person I used to go with knows Chicago like the back of his hand. His name is Dan Slack. He's gone now, but I used to go with Dan, and I used to, you know, I had children, and I would, you know, I got divorced, and then I would have to drop them off, load my car up, and then go down to Ryan Road truck stop and meet him.
Okay.
So then one day I go down there, and I just got off a tournament that I think it was a month before that I took 2nd or whatever. So I'm pumped. I really want to, you know, I want to do this. I want to get there, and, you know, hopefully this guy that beat me is going to be there again or whatever. And I go there, Ryan Road truck stop, and I'm waiting. No Dan. So I call him on my phone. I said, Dan, where are you? He said, well, you know, it's raining outside. I says, yeah. So I'll drive in the rain. I said, you got to be effing me, man. You don't drive in the rain. So I bowled him on Monday nights at Cougar just west of Milwaukee. And I always wondered why, when we bowled, if it snowed or rained, he never showed up. Now I know.
Ah.
You don't drive in the rain. I don't know if he doesn't have any windshield wipers or they don't work or what. He can't answer that now. He's gone. So I can really let him have it.
Oh, sure.
Damn boy.
Did you end up getting there anyway, or was that kind of?
No, I ended up turning around and going home. I didn't, it's down, you know, these Boot Hills were down in somewhere in Chicago, and he always drove, and I never really concerned myself on where I was going. I just wanted to get there.
Ah, okay.
So he always drove.
Yeah. So you mentioned Wookaman, and like I said, he's been he's been a big advocate for having you on. He did give me kind of a qualifying statement before before rolling this out. He says he pokes fun at you, but he respects you with high regards. There was a time when he couldn't carry your bag. In fact, not many could. When they made you, they didn't just break the mold, they burned it. So are you ready for what comes next?
Sure.
All right. ABC Nationals 1983. He claims that you carried your clothes in a grocery bag when you flew out there. He also mentioned that your main attire when you two would go out was a Heineken t-shirt. And when you hit the dance floor alone, the women would scatter like roaches.
That's right. That's okay. The women had to go back home. That was bad.
So he's not exaggerating?
Well, some of that might be a little extravagant, but I've had some good times at airports or whatever, you know, coming especially from Vegas or, you know, we used to bowl high rollers and stuff like that, of just having those all-nighters and walking around the concourse, barking like a dog, biting on people's legs that I didn't know about. I mean, those are true stories, and that's kind of crazy or whatever. Yeah. But I've also done quite well at Nationals, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about your favorite experience at Nationals.
I had $2.99 there. You'll never get a pin I left. Nobody ever guesses it.
Well, I'm guessing it's not back row if you're introducing it like that. Did you leave the head pin?
That's close to it.
Yeah. 5 pin?
No, that's behind it.
Right. What'd you leave? A 3?
That's right.
Okay.
It should have been a Jersey squash. But I had 775, you know, so.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of friends of mine. We drove there. I think it was in Baton Rouge or something like that. We drove there, and then he'd taken the pictures, and all the pictures are all blurry because he wore glasses, and he didn't take his glasses off when he's focusing the camera. So the pictures got all screwed up. So I don't even have any pictures of it. I got all the medals though.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
I can understand that problem, you know, being a long glasses wearer.
Yeah.
Tell me about when you got partnered up with Chris Kobus. Greeny said that you two were one of the best doubles teams in Wisconsin for several years.
Well, 82 and 83 were probably our best years. And as I'm looking at some of the articles of, I don't know if you can see how Chris Kobus looks.
Oh, there you go.
But, he doesn't look like that anymore. But I mean, that was when we won state match doubles. And it was, that we bowled money too. We would travel all over the place and go to these little gin mills. And we didn't bowl for a lot of money, $5 a game or sometimes $1 a game, 2 on series. But it was fun to get out and practice. That's how we practiced or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what we did. And then when we went through this field at state match, now you have to understand. You were around at state match, weren't you? When Gloria Bear ran state match at Bolero?
Boy, the problem is I've moved around so much.
Yeah.
That.
Well, it's 81, 82, and I think it started before that or whatever. But it was tough. You had to qualify, and then you had match. You had best of 5. You had match play. You had to go through. And I think when we won, we as I'm looking at this, we almost averaged 500 to win every game, and we beat Brad Okray and Dan Hogan. Okay. But I mean, the field went through Strani and Natoli and Gary Odekirk and all the people that we had to beat is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So it's fun to read some of this stuff because Gary's the one that Gary. I don't know if you're familiar with Gary Odekirk.
No, I'm not. I'm familiar with, of course, Natoli and some of the other names you mentioned.
Yeah. He's a guy that, in order to get inducted in the Hall of Fame, you got to have a Hall of Fame member. They got to sign your paper. They got to nominate you. Mm-hmm. So he's the one that nominated me, and me and him worked at A.L. Smith together too.
Ah, okay. All right.
Lives in Florida now.
Okay. I should also mention that I didn't start bowling until 84. So I wouldn't have really been into it back then.
You missed my good years.
You told me last night that Scott Helm and you are really tight. So of course I had to reach out. He said in your prime you were a great bowler. He thinks that gets lost over the years with the younger bowlers. He feels you know a lot about the sport, from equipment to lane conditions, that you also know how to fix the machines that most people don't know about. Also always around for a good time off, as I'm sure you know already, he says to me. Last but not least, he's always there for him to talk about the game or to do a round of golf with. So when did you guys meet?
Well, when I was growing up, there were a couple people that, I wanted a piece of. One was Natoli, and the other one was Scott Helm, because Scott Helm lived in Port Washington or whatever, mm-hmm. or around where Traber grew up. Yeah, Grafton or whatever. And then Natoli was at Brown Deer or whatever, And, I never could beat those guys. I mean, I never beat Natoli. And Natoli should tell you the story about, I know I'm getting off the track here a little bit, but we bowled it was a City Classic team. And some people are going to like this, some people aren't. But a City Classic team, and we bowled, and it was at Bolero. Mm-hmm. And I'm not bowling very good. And that happens. But the rest of the team is bowling good. We went from, third to qualify. Anyway, we qualified. And we had a guy on our team named Ted Weller.
Okay.
He had to go play a poker tournament. He couldn't bowl. Oh. So he said, I'm leaving. I'm not bowling. I said, you can't do that. We made the finals. What are you doing? What are you want to die? I mean, I hate to say that, but everybody on the team was ready to hang him, just hang him high. And Natoli was sitting at the bar, and he had a bad back.
Okay.
And we said, Joe, we need because you could just pick somebody up. I said, Joe, we need somebody to come in. And he goes, I'm only doing this for one reason and one reason only. Yeah. And I said, why is that? He goes, because Steve Wunderlich's on that other team, and I want to beat him.
Ah, okay.
So I mean it. And we end up taking second. Mm-hmm. But without him, we would have took last.
Sure.
So he jumped in when he had to or whatever. But I just thought that was interesting that he, when we needed him, he was there.
Yeah.
Buy him a couple of drinks.
Helm mentioned, that you know how to work on those machines. When did that start for you?
Well, I worked at A.L. Smith I retired from A.L. Smith, but they used to have long layoffs or whatever. Mm-hmm. So there came a point in time where there was nothing going on. I mean, I couldn't get a job anywhere or whatever. And Dave Strakota, I don't know if you know Dave or not.
I know.
Dave,
I'm familiar with the Strakotas. Yeah.
Dave Strakota was the district manager of Red Carpet at the time or whatever.
Okay.
And Roy Brentwood, they were looking for a mechanic. They were looking for a facilitator manager for Red Carpet. And I said, well, what's all involved with this? And they go, well, you come in here, you work for Dog Meat right away. And then as you get better and you learn more, you become a B mechanic and then an A mechanic and then a facilitator manager. So I went into Bolero one day and I sat in Dave's office and I'm looking at all his fish on the wall. And he said, oh, you want a job? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you start tomorrow. Wow. So I started the next day with Bob Wipieski, and he was my mentor and he taught me everything I needed to know. And then they sent me to school in Texas for 2 weeks, and the rest is kind of history. I mean, I was facilitator manager at Waukesha, AMF West, and Bolero.
Okay.
And and at when AMF bought Menominee Falls.
Okay.
Gary's place now.
Right. These are all Brunswick houses?
Yeah, they're all Brunswick houses. I don't know anything about AMF. No 8270s for this guy.
Fair enough. So another Brunswick house, of course, was Silverbird. Greenie wanted me to ask you how you got the name Caesar when you hang out there.
That is my nickname. I have a friend of mine, Rich Torrey, that I think it came from him or whatever. I used to get my hair permed when I was younger or whatever.
Okay.
So then my friends used to do whatever, and they used to say, "Hail Caesar," or be stoned by midnight. So everybody called me Caesar because I had curly hair and stuff like that. So I kind of accepted it because I don't think Caesar is that bad. They could have really let me have it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad. So unfortunately, nobody hailed me.
You participated in a show that a lot of folks in that area are familiar with, Bowling with the Champs, on WTMJ TV through the 80s into the 90s. What was that like to be a part of that?
That was really exciting. That was a grind too. That was 8, 16. You had 8 game qualifying, 16, another 8 games. And then I don't know. I think there was another 8 games, and then you take the top 32. I think it's 16 games. I think there's 2 8-game qualifiers, but it was hard. But then when you made the TV show, I mean, a couple of times I just made it, but I won every one of my first matches. I won.
Okay.
And I think I went to the top. I won 3 matches one year, and I lost against Gary Schmidt, but shot 700, and I lost against him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I shot 279. I lost against him. I needed a strike. I left a bucket. I'll never forget it as long as I live. But that show was really tough, and that show was exciting. I used to have. This is no lie. I used to have 150 people come down and watch that show, and it was a party.
Yeah,
it was a good time.
There was one time that Brinkman reminded me about, told me about.
Not bowling with the champs.
Oh yeah, he wants me to ask you about a 5-7-10 left against you on Bowling with the Champs.
That was him. He left a 5-7-10. I wasn't going to say that, so I don't want. Hopefully, Steve doesn't hate me the next time we go golfing or whatever.
Because I know.
I mention it all the time. He probably can't believe I didn't have the gonads to say that or whatever. But yeah, that was a close match, and then he leaves a 5-7-10. I was throwing a yellow dot on one lane and a blue dot or a blue hammer on the other lane. That's how different the lanes were. But and then I had nightmares. I'm sitting in a corner and I can see him making it. I'm like, oh, I can see him making it, but he didn't make it. So, I mean, but it was a good shot. He just, 5 didn't fall. It just sort of got, how do you say it? It just got banged together and it stood up or whatever. So
yeah,
he's a heck of a player right now, though. He is a good player.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He just had 300 last week at Highland.
Oh, okay. Yeah, one of many, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of many. But I mean, that place is not easy, though. They hook a lot there.
Yeah. As we kind of get into the 90s, of course, we all know that there's a whole new era as far as the equipment. Reactive equipment makes it basically a different sport. How was that transition for you when you experienced it?
It was really hard. For one thing, I'll tell you, I had both my knees replaced.
Okay.
So I went from urethane to having both my knees replaced to jumping into reactive resin.
Oh.
So it really didn't work for me. I don't throw reactive resin in. Well, I throw some to this day, but they don't make 3-piece reactive resin balls anymore. They're all 2-piece and they're all aggressive. And I just can't. I throw urethane.
Still?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I throw urethane with an aggressive weight block, like a motive or whatever. I throw a sniper. That's my favorite ball.
Oh, okay.
It's urethane with an aggressive weight block, and it's that's my ball of choice.
All right. Fair enough. Filter told me about how he kind of came into adults at the very tail end of your peak, where your body was kind of catching up with you. He said 97 is when he started in the adult ranks. He said he finished second in Milwaukee City team with you one year. Do you remember that tournament?
I think I was just looking at an article in here with Todd.
Yeah.
I don't see him that often, but I told you I was just in Florida.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to bowl he runs a function every year. It's a charity event. And I couldn't make it because I was coming back from Florida that day. Otherwise, I would, I get to see him like once a year or whatever, or unless I run into him at state tournament.
Okay. The one at Cedars?
Yeah, the one at Cedar.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I'm assuming the Florida trip is what netted this.
That's what it is right there. That's on the inlets right there. Yep. Yes, sir. That's right. Hey, you're missing all that funky words you put out there.
Well, you got to draw people in, right?
That's for sure. Drew me in.
That's part of the draw.
That's cool.
So, you mentioned working at Waukesha, which was a great house when it was up, I believe 48 lanes or so. I bowled league there. And you talked about Barris. Dave Barris worked there for a while. He and I kind of came up through the ranks together. So I asked him what it was like to work with you. He said that you're a great guy, always keeps it light and fun. And some of the best memories he has of you two working together is after close coming up with house ball challenges, opposite hand, or whatever you guys could think of to relax at the end of a long shift. I have fond memories of working at a bowling center in suburban Minneapolis in high school and doing basically the same thing. So, that kind of brought a smile to my face. But what was that like to kind of come up with that stuff and bowl after hours with those guys?
Well, it's great. And you can't beat him. He's pretty good, even with a house ball or whatever. I mean, there's a gentleman that went from, he was okay, but just all of a sudden exploded and became really good, even with the house balls and stuff. But he worked at it, and he really worked at it. I mean, we had good times together. And sometimes when you're at Waukesha and you got the band and the music and stuff like that, you just got to sort of relax. And that's how we would do it.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, it was fun. We used to go to Gary Dereshevsky had a place on down on Lincoln, like 12th and Lincoln or whatever. It's some place, little bowling alley, little dump that he used to own or whatever. But he used to have New Year's Eve parties there, open bar or whatever. And Brinkman was there a couple of times or whatever. And we would go out there and bowl on lead pins with these 8-pounders or whatever, for money, like $20 a game.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Gary said he had to put a stop to it because they were breaking the bowling balls.
So, yeah, I'm glad I've got Brent Prentice in the chat saying, yep, because he was one of the ones that worked with me, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about because we'd bowl after hours and, then compete in junior tournaments, a day or two later. But so what about these days? Are you bowling as much as you used to? Did you kind of lay off?
Well, I have rheumatoid arthritis, so it's a challenge. I bowl every other week at Gary's place down in the basement, the old Petrovs, down in the basement in Menominee Falls.
Okay.
And then I sub at Village on Thursdays every once in a while. And then sometimes I sub at Blue Mountain on Friday nights too or whatever, because I bowl every other Friday. So sometimes every other Friday I'll go to Blue Mountain and bowl. But no, it's kind of low key or whatever. Like right now it's golf as much as I can, which is getting to be tough too or whatever. But, you just start getting older. I don't know. Sure. I'm trying not to.
We all are.
Yeah, I know. Shit ain't working.
But, despite all that, I mean, you do kind of make appearances from time to time. And, And I asked Matt Duty, and he said, he knows when you show up to watch league or in a bowling tournament, it's going to be a fun night and usually a long one.
Well, I mean, and I see him at Blue Mound or whatever. So, I mean, you can, but then I really like to go watch tournaments. Nobody really asks me to bowl anymore unless I put a team together, I mean, everybody's normally on a team already.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop me from going up and watching and having a few cocktails on somebody's charge card.
Yeah. I guess to go from having so much success to realizing that, okay, like you said, getting older, not, being able to do things, the way you used to, or things like that. Is that an easy pill to swallow? I mean, I know some people who have, gotten out of the game completely and aren't getting back into it because they know the success they had back in the day and are afraid that they can't repeat it.
Well, there's a time, but then you get that feel again. Every once in a while, I start out with 7, 8 in a row, and you feel like you're going to have you shoot your first 300 or whatever. You've been down that road so many times, but that's the want that I still have or whatever. And I still like to win. And I don't know. There are so many people I know that say, I don't know if I bowled like you, I couldn't do that now. I'd have to quit. And I say, well, I just can't quit. I love the sport of bowling, and I love my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the people. I love what you do, and I love what everybody does for the game of bowling. I think it's really, I miss our little bowling paper that we used to have that Doug Schmidt wrote, that actually Chuck Bakewell started back in the day or whatever.
10-pin journal.
10-pin journal, yeah. I mean, it's like that kept you on so much. Oh, this guy shot that. It gives me something to go for. Now you don't know anything anymore. It's really tough. But I love the game of bowling. I know as long as I can stand upright, I think I'm going to play.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
I mentioned, as the equipment changes, the sport changes. Do you have any, I guess, ill will, regret that it's become what it has and not, the sport that you remember getting into it or even in the 70s and 80s?
I just think that these people, and even the people around here, are so good. Whether you put urethane in their hand, plastic in their hand, or whatever in their hand, they're going to still be that good. So is there really a rhyme or reason why you have to have a ball? Now, this is what I don't like. I don't like paying $280 for a bowling ball. To me, that's out of my realm, and I'm not going to do it. And I can pay $80 for a bowling ball. It's going to last me 10 years.
Yeah.
These guys pay. Of course, a lot of these guys are on staff or whatever, but they still got to pay for those balls.
Yeah.
I just think the hook is tremendous, and then the breakdown is tremendous too because of the hook. What I like, Andrew, is I like people that look at me and they go, "Oh, you can't shoot urethane. This is a tournament." And I look at them and I go, "Wow, I don't think I ever read that rule before." So I don't know. I don't know where you're getting that shit from, but if you would like to go discuss it, I'd be more than willing to discuss it with you. Oh my God, well, I hear that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's just not fair.
I'm going to guess this is Natoli, who wants to know if he missed the story about the Coors League when you had the wrong start time. The whole story, no. He says.
The whole story? I can't say that on TV.
Well, this isn't TV. This is the internet. Anything goes, baby.
Yeah, but this is kind of bad. And that's all his fault, too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got there. I'll tell some of it, but I'm not going to tell it all. I ended up spending a night in a Crowbar Motel, but we got, it was Red Carpet All Stars, and we got there at 6:30. There's nobody there. Okay. And I'm like, nobody here. What's going on? And so we sit at the bar and we're drinking, and then these people start mingling in, and they're like, "Well, what are you guys doing here? We don't start till 9 o'clock." And we're like, "Okay." And we're giddy upping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to make a long story short, we hook up with a couple of gals, and one thing led to another, and blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know, I'm in the Crowbar Motel.
Oh, no.
That wasn't my fault. I was under pressure.
Am I supposed to just use
you let
imagination?
And whatever you think is going to be good, too.
Fair enough. But, despite
I got kicked off an airplane.
Tell me about that.
Oh, my God. That was Where was I coming back from? I can't remember. I think it was someplace down south or whatever.
Okay.
And I walked on. I think Joe was there too.
It's like
that was Joe. Yeah. Well, I think it was down south. We had a 4-hour layover in St. Louis. So we flew from somewhere to St. Louis, and then 4 hours. And then the stewardess was talking to a buddy of mine, and they said they could put us up in the executive lounge. Okay. So going to executive lounge, it's open bar. So I'm bartending. I'm back there. I'm bartending and stuff, bartending for these foreigners and shit like that. And it was fun as hell. And then they had these First National drink hats we had from this place that we were at. And Joe Natoli, I think he sold his hat. And the guy wanted to give me $500 for this hat. And I said, you ain't getting my hat, man. You're not getting it. I'm not selling you this as a collector's item here. Sorry, you're not getting my hat or whatever. And the guy got mad. And all of a sudden they call our name. We got to get on a plane.
Oh.
And we're right across the hub, right across the border. So, I mean, we literally opened the door and we walked on the plane. And I sat down and I started shuffling the cards, and the captain came back to me, and a couple of those F-bombs flew or whatever. And he said, "That's it, you're out of here." And then a bunch of F-bombs flew.
Oh.
And then they dragged me off, and I all night long I had $2 in my pocket.
Okay.
So all night long I sat at the airport in St. Louis. Okay. $2 in my pocket. I got like 40 bottles from the executive lounge though in my pocket. 40 bottles of whiskey. So I just kept opening and guzzling them. And then later on at night, now I don't know if you've ever been to the airport as late as I was, but all you hear is vacuum cleaners.
Oh, sure.
So you're trying to lay down and you hear this. So you're sitting there. So you just take a little bottle, you guzzle it, and you throw it over your shoulder. You hear this dink, 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 dink. You hear the vacuum cleaner sucking it up or whatever. So then finally I got done with the bottles and I'm jacked up and I pass out and I wake up and there's hundreds of people all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh man, I don't feel very good. So I go up to the counter and I said, "Can I have that apple there?" She goes, like $4.50. I said, "Can you cut it in half?" Yeah, I only got $2. Come on, man. I'm starving. I need something to eat. Look at me. I'll trade you a bottle and $2 for one of those. They didn't do it. They didn't give it to me.
No?
No, it pissed me off. Well, that was a good time, though.
Joe loves that Coors League story, though. He says, best story ever.
Oh, that Coors League is one of that's a classic. Yeah. That's a true story.
I believe it.
If you let your mind go crazy, it's really...
I'm going to have to fill in the middle part, yeah.
Oh, my God. The stuff that happened was out there. And then with the cop banging on the window, oh, my God. Sorry, man. Lockjaw.
Let me, let me segue into a couple things that I wanted to kind of put your way, though. Filter said, hey, Bruce can be loud. He can swear a little bit, but he says, peel it back. And he's one of those guys who would give you the shirt off your back if you ever need it. Natoli says that you have dressed up and played Santa Claus for kids for years. And he says, while he's never seen it, he's told that you do an amazing job. So don't let the F-bombs fool you.
That's true. I did. I was a great Santa Claus. My uncle kind of got me into that years ago. Yeah. My aunt, and then you have to have a couple of drinks, but we have a pretty big family, so a lot of kids or whatever. So he played Santa Claus, and then when he passed away, I got the reins. But then I used to get hired to go to adult parties. They were fun. Play Santa Claus and have a good time. Oh my God, Santa was a happy boy. But I played Santa one time for I had an old girlfriend. She was a school teacher. That's interesting. She was a school teacher. And I went to her school, and I played Santa Claus, and I had this little African American kid sit on my lap and go, "Santa, why you white?" And the only answer I could give him is like, I'm not Santa. I'm only one of Santa's helpers, and I'm here to help him out. And all I do is get around, and and I didn't have any answer for it. But I thought it was one of the most interesting times when I played Santa Claus that I had that question asked.
Yeah. But no, that's really cool. Either way, I mean, to do that for kids is awesome.
Oh yeah, kids are great. I love kids.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier you're a grandfather. That's got to be amazing.
It is. I mean, I'm a great grandfather too.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, she's my youngest is going to be 2 next week, Saturday. We're going over by my daughter's house. And my other ones, the other 6 live in Florida. And then my or not in Florida, in Ohio. And my great-granddaughter lives in Ohio too. And I'm going there next week, Thursday. I'm going there for my second oldest grandson's graduation.
Okay.
He already graduated, but he's having a party. And so me and my daughter and my other granddaughter and her husband and my brother and his wife are just driving to Ohio and get to go to Cedar Point. Cedar Point's cool.
Yeah. So I got to ask, is there going to be a next generation of Torbecks who bowl, or does this stop with you?
There's going to be no generations of Torbecks. There's no guys. They're all girls.
Oh, okay.
So, but my granddaughters bowl. Last year, I told them I buy them bowling. Now they do that through the high school program.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool in Ohio. And Cleveland's got a bunch of good bowlers and stuff like that. So, they can get around or whatever. And there's a lot of the guys that I deal with pro shops here, no pro shops there. So I can deal with them down there or whatever. So, they're going to get bowling balls this year when they go out for the thing. They like band and stuff like that. They're busy. Yeah. But as far as the Torbeck, there's no guys left,
sure.
So the name is going to die, I think.
But still cool that that grandkids kind of get to know the sport. So the apples don't fall
far from the tree. Yeah,
far from the tree. Yeah.
Hit them in the head maybe
if they're unlucky.
Yeah, if they're unlucky.
Yeah. So we kind of tried this out yesterday, and I let you know that in each show we go off the sheet by asking you to challenge somebody else to appear on a future episode. And it doesn't have to be the greatest bowler in the world. It doesn't have to be the worst bowler in the world. It could be someone, with a great story to tell who is passionate about the sport. So, Bruce Torbeck, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
Well, I thought like everybody on your show says, I thought about this pretty good. Now, I don't know if this person's been on or not or whatever, but he's a good friend of mine too. And he's a great player and he's got some stories too. Ron Vokes.
Ah, okay. He has not.
And he just got inducted into State Hall of Fame 2 weeks ago.
Yep. And had that incredible run at the Open Championships to boot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got 2 national titles, and I think there was a couple of them, but he's the one that came to mind.
Okay. Fair enough. Ron, if you end up seeing this live or on replay and you're interested in taking Bruce up on his challenge, feel free to reach out. You can find me on Facebook, or you can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com. Next week, Monday, June 6th, is our next live stream, and we have another team, the Serbskis Club from Village Bowl in Menominee Falls. And in talking with some of those guys who have been together 30 years, they say they know you a little bit.
I bowled her on Thursdays. I think I know who you're talking about.
Okay. Ignatowski and his buddies?
Yeah, I think they're going to have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. That's coming up June 6th. This coming Monday, 6 p.m. Central. Be sure and tune in. It'll be a great time. Bruce, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you for asking me, Andrew. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed getting rid of some of those old stories.
Don't get rid of them. Just
no. Well, then some of them are so good. You never forget good stories or whatever.
Yeah,
so
that's great, and I'm glad you're willing to share them here. It's been a blast. Everyone, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great night. Be just and fear not.
Thank you. Take care.